Hi, I'm Zach Holloway. Have you recently purchased a new house, moved into a new house, rented one, rented a new apartment? This is our house. We've been here for about a year, and so far we've done a lot with the house, but it still just doesn't feel right. We come home and it feels like we're in somebody else's house because it doesn't really have a lot of our personality in it. Big part of that is just the walls being white, being boring and plain. I'm definitely not a person that likes white walls. I like it being clean, not too cluttered, but I like it to feel warm and to be nice. So looking at our house with these white walls here, I decided that I wanted to do something about that finally, and I wanted to be able to show you guys what we can do with that and what it would really affect, how easy it is to do, and the benefits of painting walls. So in our house, we want to get rid of the white, get rid of the boredom, get rid of it not feeling like our own place. Add some color to the walls. That'll take on our own personality as well as be able to positively affect behaviors, positively affect emotions as well. So next part of the video on here, we're going to go ahead and show you an example of a room that we've already done so you can see how much of a transformation there can be. All right, thanks for following me into the living room here. We have our dog Hamster here. He's being nice and calm because we've actually painted our living room some calming colors. Wanted to show you what the finished product looks like after you paint your house. And so in here, we have the living room. We've actually gone with basically 4 different colors in the living room. So we've got chair rails that we've put up to be able to separate it, make it so that it looks a lot more well established, a little bit higher class than just the plain colored wall. Up here we've done a nice light blue to try to expand the room because those light colors will make your room seem larger still. And then on the bottom all the way around we've done a nice brown warm color. Warm colors will help make conversation a lot smoother in a room as well as make you feel at ease. And then on the top we have a darker blue. A darker blue is a color that's definitely known to reduce blood pressure, cause communication to flow, and then be able to go ahead and make people feel calm and relaxed. So these are the colors that we've gone with in our house, and we just want to be able to show you how to actually make all this happen, to take that white room that we showed you before and make it a lot more your own personality like this. All right, this is our hallway. It's not too big of a room, so I thought it would be a perfect example of where to paint, be able to show you the full experience going from white to having a nice color and being able to show who we are. That way it won't take too long to be able to cover it. We can fit it into this video here. So there's a couple things we've already done here. We've taken most of the stuff out of the walls, patched up most of it. I did leave something back here to be able to show you as an example. And then we've already gotten some chair rails up in here as well. So in a moment I'll show you basically how we went ahead and did that in this room. And then we'll remove a couple of other things and get ready to go. Alright, so right here is a good example of how we would put up the chair rails. We have a solid white wall, nothing on it. We've made sure to patch any holes where we want to put the chair rail. I've already gone ahead and cut this piece of chair rail out using my miter saw. And so what we'd be doing is basically applying this up here. In order to do that, we need a couple of other tools. One is a level, to make sure that it's actually straight. And then we have a tape measure to be able to show how high we want that, make sure that it's at the right level. We have a stud finder, super important for making sure we actually nail into something that'll hold that on the wall. And a nail gun. So we basically use the tape measure to go ahead and measure our height. In this house we went ahead with 37 inches. So we'll go ahead and mark off 37 inches on both sides where we want it. So we've already got those marks here and here. The next part we did was go ahead and take our stud finder, run it along the wall, and mark each of our studs, about 18 inches on this house. And then after making sure that it's level, went ahead and got the trim up here and used the nail gun on the studs to secure the chair rail. All right, now we're to the section of finishing removing everything out of the room so that we're not painting over everything that's here and we come up with a nice clean look. So we've got a screw that's still in the wall here. Remove the rest of them, but I wanted to make sure you had a good example of how you can go ahead and patch these so that the walls look smooth. So we'll go ahead and use the Phillips to take this out. And then we've got a big hole here. So first thing that's important is that we knock that hole in, make sure that it's flat. And then we've got some Dry-Tex spackling to go ahead and fill the hole. Once we do that, just needs a little bit right there. And then you can't see that hole anymore. All right, next thing we're going to go ahead and remove here is this faceplate off the light switch. You don't need to paint them onto the wall. Super simple to remove, easy to put back on. Butter knife, trade secret. If you don't have your screwdriver with you, or you don't want to run outside in the cold like tonight, you can just go ahead and use that butter knife. Fits perfectly in there. And so we'll go ahead and unscrew that off of here. We'll just go ahead and leave the screws in the faceplate or take them out like we did this time. And now we can paint around that, make sure it's nice and smooth. All right, next we're gonna go ahead and start getting ready because we're ready to actually paint. I don't wanna go ahead and get my nice clothes ruined, so I'm gonna go ahead and change into something a little bit less important to keep safe. All right, so I've got some of my painting materials here to go ahead and start out. I've got a semi-gloss paint here because it's really good at being able to keep stains off and be able to be more durable for you. So it's white. I've already gotten the chair rails painted here. That was done before we started the video. Wanted to make sure that was dry enough for us to actually paint the rest of this. And then we've got a couple different sizes of brushes here. We've got the larger brush to be able to cut in against the larger walls, and then smaller brushes to be able to hit these small spots back here. Obviously a big brush would get the paint all over the trim that we've already got white there. And then I've got my two different colors of paint. We've got a brown to make sure that we've got a nice warm color there, and then we've got the blue up here to make sure that we're calm walking down the hallway. So only other thing that's important here is we've got a rag ready because everybody makes mistakes when you paint. You've got something that gets all over everything. You don't want to mess up the work you've already done, but it's guaranteed that you'll get it on something that you don't want it on. So you want to make sure you've just got that there. You mess up, you wipe it off, perfectly good to go. And then we'll go ahead and get started here. We're going to start with the brown on the bottom. Make sure that we can start low. While that dries, we're going to hit the top. So you've got your can opener here. Go ahead all the way around the outside. Make sure you don't set that face down. And then since this paint's been used, I just need to mix it up a little bit. You can either get one of those stir sticks, or if you do this a few times, it's going to also mix it for you. And then I've decided to use my big brush on the bottom to start out with, along with the really small brush. So I'll go ahead and start getting cut in here. And after I start getting it cut in, show you how to do that, we'll go ahead and speed it up some, so you don't have to literally watch paint dry. All right, so always make sure you're just getting the end of the brush wet, and then keep the bristles down so that it's not running into the brush or it'll separate it out too much. You want to actually get the paint away from the edge, and after you've gone along, then you can come back and fill that in right there all the way up to the edge where you want it. And just keep doing that all the way around. Leave it about 2 to 3 inches away so you have room to roll. All right, we're going to go ahead and speed this up some. All right, right here we have one of the small walls. Wanted to be able to show you this because it's going to be a lot different how you actually paint these small areas like this. Obviously a roller isn't going to reach here very well, so you want to make sure to paint the entire spot with your paintbrush. And you can kind of see what the finished product will look like, at least in that area after you do that. So you'll do all your cut in like this. Go ahead and do the middle as well. And then good thing about these chair rails as well is because you're looking down on them, you don't have to be super specific when you cut in on the bottom. Even if it goes under a little bit, it's still going to be okay and nobody will be able to notice. And still look nice and clean. Or you can just paint on top of it like that, but that's why we have the rag here. Just go ahead and keep it wet and wipe it off nicely. Still looks nice and clean. As I said, I've painted several houses and I still get paint on things that I'm not intending to. So you just have to know that you'll make some mistakes and you can always fix them. Even if you don't notice it until it's already dry, you can always go back over that portion with the color that you want there. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and get this finished up right here and then we'll move on to the next part. So we finished cutting in the bottom layer once. Now we're going to go ahead and cut in the top layer to give the bottom some time to dry. Since we still need to do the second layer of cut in on the bottom, we're going to go ahead and wrap the brushes in tinfoil. The paint actually won't dry on tinfoil, so it's a good way to be able to keep your paint brush ready so that you can use it a little bit later and have the paint on it still be wet. That way the brush doesn't get kind of out of shape and how it's not going to work well. So just go ahead and preserve it there in the tin foil. We'll go ahead and do that with the second one I've been using for the smaller areas as well. And then go ahead and get the paint covered up as well. That'll keep the paint from drying out, having issues when you try to use it later. Doesn't need to be super secure, but we'll get it on there like that. And now we'll go ahead and do another video. I'm going to go ahead and show you how to cut in on the top in just a moment. Alright, so we're getting ready to cut in up here. So I've got the paint, I've got a new brush. This one's kind of a medium-sized brush, so I can hopefully cut in as well as be able to do the larger areas. And then I've got a stool. In the normal part of the house I had to use a ladder, but this ceiling is a lot shorter. So one of the kids' stools here. Make sure not to tell them that I'm using something of theirs for good instead of evil. And we'll go ahead and just a little bit of a boost here because you want to make sure you can see that corner nicely. If you don't, that's probably one of the trickiest parts of painting, is making sure that you cut in nicely along the ceiling. So I'll go ahead and show you how I do that right here to start. So again, we don't want to go right to the edge at first or else it gets too thick and it's going to cause issues where you're cutting in. So start down here, and then when I do the ceiling, if you'll notice, what I'll do is not, so when you're cutting in there, you're going to tend to see where that crack is and try to go right where the ceiling meets the wall. My biggest kind of idea is to be able to go ahead and cut in slightly onto the ceiling, because no matter what, you're not going to be perfect the whole way along. Even if you have the steadiest hand and the best eyes, the area where the ceiling and the wall meet is still going to waver because the drywall is just not perfect or the texture is not perfect. If you cut in on the wall down here and you leave a little bit of a gap, you'll notice that no matter where you are, you can see that tiny gap. Whereas if you cut in on the ceiling a little bit and touch that, the only time you're going to be able to see that is if you're right under that spot and you're looking up from right here. So most of the time, you're going to notice if you leave a little bit of wall empty, not if you leave a little bit of the ceiling empty, and it creates the cleanest look for you. So I'm going to go ahead and start doing a time lapse where we're going to go ahead and cut in this top half of the wall here and make sure that it's all taken care of. Right before we do that, I want to show you one other thing, because you might have noticed in the other time lapse when I was going around, after I cut in this way, you'll notice that I go back down like this. That's because as you go along your route, it's going to leave all these streaks here. Now the first time you go around, there's still going to be some spots that aren't perfect. That's why you do the second layer of cut in. But then the other thing that you'll see me do here is after I go along an area, you'll see me go like this with my brush. It's not to just add some texture or anything, it's to keep the brush in form. If you don't do that, it's going to have these little stray parts that are sticking out and you're going to hit all kinds of areas with those. So we'll just go ahead and get that straightened out. That's what all those little movements are. So not super important, but they do have a reason behind them. All right, so we're done with the cut-in and we've made sure that it's fully dried on here. So now we're ready to go ahead and roll these bigger spaces. We're going to start with the brown on the bottom just so we don't have to dirty multiple rollers. So we've already got a rolling pan, lined it with tin foil just to make it easier. That way after we're done rolling the bottom twice, we can take the tin foil out, throw it away, reline it, we're ready for the blue instead of waiting for the whole thing to dry. So I've got the paint can here, and then I've got this little part right here, which not 100% necessary, but it keeps the paint from filling up the top of the can. And then I've got a brush right here to be able to scrape that off after I fill the paint rolling pan so that it doesn't dribble all over the carpet. So I'm going to go ahead and fill this up, and then we'll be right back and show you how to roll the bottom. Alright, so we went ahead and got a roller and a roller cover. I like to use these disposable ones. They work well enough and you don't have to take an hour of water to clean them out afterwards. So we just go ahead and get that put on the roller. They're really tight, which makes getting them off a ton of fun once they're all painted. And then we've got the paint in here. The hardest part of rolling is probably getting the paint on the roller, because the side that has paint on it likes to weigh itself down, and then where you need the paint is nowhere near the new paint. So once we get this all evenly on here, then we can go ahead and do a wall. Big trick with the paint is you want a perfect medium between having so much paint that it's drooling all over and not enough paint, because if you don't have enough paint, it's actually going to take what you just put on the wall back off, just like when you do that second coat with the paintbrush. So once you roll that nicely, then you want to go ahead and put it on the wall. Now I always skip spaces because I don't want it to be really heavy here and then really light here. I'll go back through my spaces here. Alright, and of course it's not covering everything, but we don't want it to. We'll go back a different direction to kind of smooth all of that out. Again, you have the cut in all the way up to the trim, so you don't need to roll all the way to the trim. You can stay that nice inch or two out and know that you're not going to hit that with the roller. Again, it will happen sometimes. You'll hit the trim. That's why you have your rag. You just wipe it off, make sure it's clean, and you're good to go. And so we'll roll this in here. Now the texture of the wall is going to make a huge difference of how easily this goes on. This wall actually is a very odd wall because it had a 2x4 go through it from the previous owner. So all of this has been repatched and not done very well, but we didn't want to re-drywall everything in the house since we're just renting it. So we're going to deal with the texture that it has. We're going to go in a lot of different directions because of the little pits and holes in here, and make sure that it looks good. So we'll finish this one up, which is almost done, and then we'll go ahead and give you a time lapse, see what those last couple walls look like on the bottom. So again, just making sure all the little holes are getting filled in, and go in different directions to make sure that you don't just get lines in your wall as well. And then if you notice, I'm turning the roller around so that if paint is starting to go to one end, it's not going to drop on the carpet. Alright. It's been my goal to show you how to be able to take the place that you go home to at night, whether it's an apartment or a house, and turn it not just into the place where you go home, but actually into a home for you, where you feel comfortable and you like actually being there and going home. So by adding color, as we've shown you how to do, you're able to see how to make your place your own, add your own influence on it and your own characteristics. You can go ahead and make it so that it influences your emotional, your behavioral, and your health aspects of your life. Whether you're looking for colors that can help calm you down, colors that stimulate conversation, you can even paint your house colors that will help you to eat more, eat less, be happy, be sad if you want to for some reason. Whatever it is, there's colors that are linked to those, and by painting your house, you can stimulate those behaviors and those feelings. So we went through and showed you how to turn this white hallway into a hallway that is classy and shows who you really are. We went ahead and showed you what materials you need and how to be able to do the full cut-in, repairs, and paint the walls themselves. From here, it's your turn. So go ahead and take what you've learned and apply it in your own home, and you'll have a great time. Thank you.